Call this council meeting to order, the 3rd of June. Please turn off your cell phones or silence them. Please join me in a moment of silence. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. If you would please call the roll.
Councilmember Clutter. Reed. Here. Brown. Here. Lawler. Here. Spicer. Williamson.
Here.
And Mayor Atchison.
Here. First item is approval of the agenda. There is, that I'm aware of, one correction of a typo in one item that's on the agenda tonight for the Battle Creek YMCA, that the presenter is unable to make it, so we need to remove that from the agenda. And the second item, Roman numeral 9, where it says to consult with the city attorney, that should say to consult with the city attorney. So if I can have a motion.
You mean city council.
What did I say? Oh, I did, didn't I? Okay. City council, yes. Okay. So those are the two changes. If I can have a motion to.
Support.
Okay. All those in favor of approving the agenda as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. The agenda is approved as amended. First item is the presentation on Project Rising Tide. An update.
Good evening. Thank you all. It took me a long time to prepare for this because a lot has happened. But I just wanted to appreciate the time, and I'm going to try to get through it as quickly as possible. I understand housing has been a priority, and so I'm going to speak to that first. We did have a public meeting where people indicated they wanted to be part of a task force, and there were 2 immediate meetings following, including with the Michigan State Housing Development Authority, and we have been able to take advantage of one of their programs, the Neighborhood Enhancement Program, and we're excited to use that as a place to build on. It's not a lot of money, but it's enough for us to start meeting some of our needs, especially, so our goal is to focus on the biggest priority, homes and needs, and we are working with community action to try to build on those funds and really address things like roofs, which they're not able to address. So we also are partnering with the Calhoun County Land Bank for some of their lot beautification. And in the conversations that we've had, learned that, and I'm sure you probably all know, but it's just good to keep sharing information that they are working on affordable housing for the workforce, the growing workforce in Albion, and people who are going to be moving out of public housing and still wanting to stay in Albion. So those are some of the biggest things that have been underway. We also are excited to learn about additional funds that once the city is stabilized we can take advantage of, like the Federal Home Loan Bank of Indianapolis, and also the USDA Rural Development Grants and Loans. Both of those would be excellent for our community. And so we're excited to really be working toward those things and have some specific goals in sight. One of the kind of biggest bottlenecks, if you will, is actually the licensed contractors, licensed and insured contractors. So we're figuring out, how to work within our community to address those needs, but also see that as an opportunity for workforce development. And I know our Marshall Opportunity High School has a skilled trades program, so making some of those connections and really addressing multiple things at the same time. I'm sorry I couldn't be at the meeting earlier about workforce development, but I'm excited to see what was discussed. And I know personally, being at Michigan Works as much as I can to learn about this issue, if you will, in our community. According to our comprehensive plan, having as many as 42 people who are disengaged in our workforce, I think, is an issue. And so we have to be able to look at that and understand from my conversations at Michigan Works, being able to provide supportive services will go a long way, and that's not being offered right now. So understanding how to get that offered is on my radar, and I just want to get all this on everybody else's radar as well. Another thing that was brought to my attention and I had heard about elsewhere is this idea of a skill set inventory. There's a lot of expertise in our community that's going underutilized, and it can be applied in multiple ways to help work and address how to rebuild our workforce and meet the needs of the community at the same time. Okay, I'm just going to jump ahead. So I think one of the biggest things that I have seen is just this need for collaborations and more open communications, and communications is part of the Rising Tide deliverables. So we have someone providing technical assistance in that realm, and it's been kind of hard to figure out where do we start. And we have had collaborative meetings to help rewrite the Downtown Development Authority's strategic plan, and that has been productive. So we're excited to see where that can be applied throughout our leadership in our community. The DDA plan is being updated, so people want to attend and hear about that. The next meeting is Wednesday, June 5th at 7:30 a.m. And again, these are just seeds that I'm planting. One of the tools that has been brought to our attention is a thing called a power analysis, where you can look at who holds the most power in a circumstance and then who is most impacted, and really measuring how these situations are playing out is something that we are going to be doing. So just wanted that to be on everyone's radar as well. The dams in our community have been something else that's been on the Project Rising Tide agenda. So we wanted to offer sincere condolences to Betty Michael of Albion and acknowledge that while our conversations were focused more on Victory Park, with that tragedy, it has been brought to our attention that addressing the smaller dams on the mill race should take precedence. So I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention. And then lastly, community branding has taken place. And it's hard to keep up with all this that's going on, but all the information on that, the presentation, the video, the slides, all of that is at albionmich.net/branding. And there also will be an article in the paper. The biggest thing that I took away from that is that Albion actually is unique. A lot of people kind of go back and forth about that, but our blend of industries, educational institutions, people, natural resources, history, and stories upon stories really make us one of a kind. So seeing all of those assets consolidated into one toolbox is very encouraging, and it's intended to be utilized by the community and be adaptable to anyone's needs. So we encourage feedback in order for that to be a true reflection of our dynamic community and applicable to anyone who wants to use it. And that is the very short version. So I want to make myself available, because in all the things that I'm tasked with doing, there's stuff that I feel like is applicable to many people in different situations. So I just want it to be known that I am definitely eager to talk with people more in depth about anything that's under Project Rising Tide. And I will be, once I can stabilize myself, making myself available to people in more public places to have those type of meetings. Are there any questions?
You mentioned the Federal Home Loan Bank from Indianapolis. Could you expound on that a little bit?
Absolutely. So that's the one thing I know quite a bit about. The Homestead Savings Bank in Albion is a member of that institution, and they service, I think, Indiana, Michigan, and Illinois, I want to say. They have funds, they have 2 different funds that are applicable to Albion, up to $500,000, and one that I think is for the seniors, people with handicaps, different home improvements in that realm, and then I think up to $300,000 for new home owners. So that essentially, if the bank had applicants who were qualified, I think it's 80% of the area median income, they could receive those funds. And I don't know the caps on the grant amounts, but they are grants that people would receive to assist in those different areas. And Homestead really wants to provide those. That's why they offer the financial empowerment fair, and they are regulated to not advertise in the ways that you would hope they could. So word of mouth is critical for them.
Councilmember Williamson.
Thank you. Thank you for the update tonight. I was wondering, since there is so many different parts to what you're doing, is there some sort of breakdown in maybe written form about how this all is tied together? Because it felt like you're just kind of in the middle of a bunch of stuff. Yep. I don't see how any of it kind of works together. So it'd be nice if you had something.
Yep, so I actually wasn't able to bring my flyer, but I do have the flyer showcasing the 5 areas identified by the community, and then the 5 different technical assistance deliverables that are underway. All of that is on the Facebook page, and then the state's page, mirisingtide.org/Albion, has as much current information as possible. A lot of this stuff has just come through recently, so there'll be more information soon. But it also has a lot of things like our comprehensive plan, our recreational master plan, things that are just foundational of like what we're building on.
Okay.
Yep. But I agree, it is like it's this huge nebulous of a lot of things, and it's hard to keep up with.
Other questions by council?
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have a presentation by Ms. Harmony Fierk, and I apologize if I mispronounced your name, on the HUD Neighborhood Choice Program.
Thank you. Yes, Harmony Fierke, that was close. But also Gamazel on the end, too. So if I could, thank you very much for starting that. So I am here in regard to item 11N, request approval resolution 2019-22. I'm here to present a little bit of a background information about what that resolution means and what the work we would do under that resolution. So thank you for having me here tonight. Again, I am a government and community vitality educator for MSU Extension, and my background is urban and regional planning. I serve 22 counties in southern and mid-Michigan in the work that I do, and it's policy work. We apply for grants like you'll see tonight, all having to do with the built environment, housing quality, public engagement, things of that nature. So I'm going to jump right into it here. So the HUD Choice Neighborhoods Planning Grant, we are Michigan State University and MSU Extension are applying for this grant right now. In partnership with the Albion Housing Commission and the City of Albion. This is the third time we have applied for this grant program. Last fall was our last effort to apply for this, and we were not funded, but we were very close. And we had a debriefing with HUD. We went through our application with the HUD grant reviewers. They gave us advice on how to improve the grant. We have made those changes, and we feel like we will be funded this time. Because, as you may or may not know, HUD reviewers apply points to every section of your grant application. And the better you do on your sections, the more points you will get. So we are within the range of funding this time. And so we're very hopeful that you will partner again on this. So this Choice Neighborhoods program, you can see here, it supports locally driven strategies to address struggling neighborhoods in distressed public housing areas. And they're looking for neighborhood transformation. And I have some bullet point lists here of how that could happen under a Transforming Albion program that we are proposing to HUD this time. It would be steering committee led. We would have forums and a charrette process. which I can define in a bit. We'll do a household or comprehensive needs assessment of the public housing. We will have resident-led events, and the residents of those housing developments would actually lead the activities and come up with the activities to be funded. And the neighborhood planning councils are critical. That's the final bullet point here on this list. They were kicked off last summer with the help of an AmeriCorps volunteer. I do believe they are not very active, but if this grant program could jumpstart that planning council effort and get residents involved at that level, they would play a vital role in the activities under this grant. So HUD requires some outcomes if they do fund us, and those involve housing, people, and neighborhoods. And under housing, HUD is looking for well-managed and financially viable public housing, mixed incomes, and energy-efficient, healthy, and safe housing. Under the people aspect of HUD's requirements, once this grant were to be completed, residents would have access to high-quality learning centers, wages would increase over time, and access to health care like dental and doctor offices would improve. At the neighborhood level, HUD is looking for, at the end of this, low vacancy rates and high-quality housing, reasonable travel distances between the public housing developments, and daily needs like groceries, doctor offices, etc. And we want schools that are good with test scores that are better than the state scores. And so Marshall School District, the superintendent there has partnered and has given us a letter of support committing to this grant program and offering space and teacher time and classes to help with the events through this program. And anyway, in the neighborhood, final bullet point there, HUD is looking for everyone to live in a safe environment. How could you not? Here are the nuts and bolts of the grant program. Whoops, I changed it on my laptop but not on the screen. We're looking at receiving approximately, give or take, $1.3 million from HUD for this Transforming Albion effort. $100,000 of that would come to the city and the Housing Commission over the next 3 years. And the city and the Housing Commission would have to decide how that money would be divvied up. We do have a sample budget from years past that past councils, past city managers, and the Housing Commission Director Ann has worked on. So we're not starting from scratch. We would have a template on how that money would be shared and what would be done with it. That $100,000, and that's approximates, it could be a little more, a little less, would be spent typically on salaries and equipment that would help bolster the programs that we're going to go through here in a minute. And it's over 3 years, again, a 3-year program. Now keep in mind that $100,000, once that comes to the city and the Housing Commission, that then frees up another $100,000 that the commission and the city would have spent on that person or on that equipment. So we're bringing in good money here for that. Now what we do ask is a $5,800 per year cash match from the city, $17,500, just to match and then really just to show your commitment to this program. And then of course you would be getting the $100,000 back, so it's kind of rolling. So we hope to start this project if we're funded in early 2020, January, February, and the awards would be announced this fall, early fall. And so those are the nuts and bolts of this planning grant. Here I show the planning, the applicants, co-applicants, it's MSU, Housing Commission, and the City of Albion. The participants are listed on the left-hand side. Of course, it's all the public housing residents of all ages and abilities and incomes and backgrounds. And we would have a very diligent effort to engage everyone. And other community groups and leaders and institutions in Albion, of course. And so we're focusing on precincts 1, 2, and 3, but of course, groups and leaders and interested persons from around the entire city and the townships outside the city can also be involved. So why Albion? This started, I would say, 2 years ago, and throughout 2018, MSU Extension held just a few large public meetings to talk about civic engagement. And they were informational. We brought together leaders from the community to talk about civic engagement and what really are the barriers and challenges to high-level engagement at all levels of government and even at the neighborhood level. And so we were excited in 2018 to hear from those forums that a neighborhood planning council idea had been taking shape, because that's really, you have to have some sort of framework at the neighborhood level to get people involved and engaged. So through those civic engagement meetings, our partnership with Albion on these grant applications were just a no-brainer. The size of Albion being a medium-sized city, not too close to a larger metropolitan area, makes Albion unique as well, and the makeup, demographics of Albion as well. And then your master planning efforts, and I think you're updating your master plan right now. Just your efforts that you've spent on your city master plan proves that the city, that you are very committed to the vision for the city, and that helps with grant applications as well. So a lot of activities already underway in Albion just lend themselves to this type of program. So the where, just a couple maps of the precincts in Albion. Again, 1, 2, 3 on the west side of the city, that's where we would be focusing our engagement efforts and neighborhood design efforts. Okay, now the what. Just a few slides here, I'm almost done. The what. Again, it gets back to HUD's principles under this Choice Neighborhoods program of housing, people, and neighborhoods. Participatory planning is the name of the game under this grant program. And that means that MSU, or the typical leadership in the city, we're not coming in and dictating what the vision would be for these neighborhoods and these precincts, focusing around the public housing developments. But that through very calculated meetings, forums, and charrettes, the residents would be coming up and participating in the planning. So here's a very small graphic. I apologize, but I have a red. How this whole process would start would be creating a steering committee first off. And through that, we would have interviews, a household need assessments, open houses, resident meetings, to gather input from all of the public housing development areas in each precinct. From that, we would take a look at the reports and the data and all things that came out of your master planning and other surveys that you've done in the past, and try to put together a story of what is happening now, right? Like a footprint of now. And then the community vision starts to be created, and we do that through a charrette, which is a multi-day design event held in either precinct 1, 2, or 3. And it's from morning to night. It's like 7 days straight. We have a design studio with students, and everyone who is interested, no matter the age, ability, background, comes into that studio and helps create a vision for neighborhood design and neighborhood improvements. And that's where the school district is getting involved too. I mentioned that the superintendent had committed teaching time and classes. They would actually come to this studio, the students from Albion during the school day, and be a part of this unique process. And charrettes are very unique. Not every community has one or can even afford to have one, and so it's fantastic that we can tie that into this. And this is actually where we see the city's $5,800 a year going into to match efforts to make the charrette a success. And the nuts and bolts of exactly where that money goes can be worked out once we're funded. But we think that, you know, this week-long charrette could be a really good use of your funds, because you're actually implementing your master plan at the same time. I don't know what you have right now written in your master plan regarding the public housing or the neighborhoods in precincts 1, 2, and 3, but this would implement that. And so your funding would be helping with implementing your master plan naturally. And then I'm getting further down on the slide there. With all of this input on this transformational vision, we would have a transformation plan, and then we would get more public feedback. There's a lot of feedback loops throughout a charrette as well. Public are invited in over and over and over again during that week to make tweaks. Oh, I didn't say that, I said this. And the designers can change things. At the same time, we're starting a doing process, right? So we've got one column that's planning on the left, So a whole process of planning. And then we have a doing process happening at the parallel time. And we do that through what we call strategic doing, and there's a whole framework, and we would train leaders on how to lead meetings and have residents actually do some strategic doing, where you actually come out of these meetings with A, B, I'm going to do A, B, and C, or our group is going to do A, B, C to improve this, that, and the other. Be a lot more detail to it once we're funded and figure all that out, but it comes out of all that planning that happens too, but it's parallel. We don't want to lose any time. We only have 3 years, which seems long, but it's not for this type of work. And so we want to start right in on the doing and on the actions and come up with projects and priorities from the residents in the precincts. Then we start implementing those. I think I've got a little bit here on that. Yeah, just a few bullet points here of the types of actions that would come out of this process. And it all depends on what the residents are wanting. But generally, from a history of being involved in planning and visioning, these are kind of the typical topics we see that come out, having to do with accessibility to housing, safety, quality, affordability. Workforce development can tie into it, making sure that neighborhoods are connected to workplaces and connected to transportation options to get there. The food access, police relations, mistrust of government, because the engagement that is going to go on during this effort is at such a level that we hope to actually increase engagement over a long time. And so then hopefully addressing mistrust with the government. Roads and sidewalk repairs, there's always concerns when we're transforming a neighborhood that it would be gentrified, and so we would be very, very careful about the objectives that come out of the vision, right? And so we say, HUD says we want mixed income. Well, what does that mean for precincts 1, 2, and 3 in those public housing developments? Right, so we'd have to be very diligent in having some sincere discussions with the neighborhoods about what they're concerned about with gentrification or changing over of neighborhoods, because that's not the intent. Time has to be spent on that to avoid it and address it. And then, of course, item number 8, health is always an issue, and understanding the health impacts that residents are facing now is going to be a critical piece. And those health impacts, if we can figure out what those are with the help of residents, we can start to address them with activities. You know, health impacts like air quality, water quality, safety and crime, things like that. We can work through with all of these public engagement efforts. Some general activities here that could come out of a process like this. Improvements to parks, improvements to recreation areas, the creation of more safe public areas for people to congregate, beautification, you know, looking at our public spaces and making sure they are safe. This all falls under a very interesting planning effort called CPTED, CPTED, Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design. And we have a faculty member at MSU who's focusing on that. And as part of these workshops in the precincts, we would have that discussion of where are the crime hotspots for real? Like, where does the data say they occurred versus what are your perceptions of where crime occurs? And let's figure out if there's any discrepancies there, and then why are they occurring? Because of alleyways? Is it because of poor lighting? Is it because of landscaping that's not being kept up? All sorts of things in the public realm that can be addressed through CPTED. And that comes out of a whole school of thought that applying more policing actually across Michigan is shown to not decrease crime rates. But once you start making changes to the environment where people live, that actually decreases crime. So we would like CPTED to be a part of all the public meetings and have and actually help the process. Anyway, and then finally wrapping up, a solid framework for making sure that the neighborhoods are connected to workplaces and transportation in a meaningful way that doesn't waste people's time and is actually strongly connected. So With that, I know Linda just talked about Project Rising Tide. There are some elements happening there that we would be able to tie into this grant if we were funded, right? Because when we're not going to make this a standalone process that ignores other things going on. Everything that's been happening in Albion would be tied into the work under Transforming Albion. And we would want to know what's happening and take advantage of that momentum, right, as a city. I believe that might be, just some next steps. There is a resolution in front of you tonight, again, item 11N, that is a required document from HUD. And I will be staying until the end of the meeting. If anyone has questions once that comes up, I'll be here. But again, that resolution, and we have other documents that the Housing Commission and the City Manager has been working on. It's kind of been put on hold until tonight's resolution is acted upon, but we have those documents that I would be collecting this week. They're due Friday, so that MSU can submit everything to HUD next week online. So that's kind of the coming up fast, next steps. So that is all I have. Thank you so much.
Questions? Okay. So 1.3 million in these projects that you addressed, let's just say you mentioned possibly changing lighting. Is that where the resources come from to pay for those projects?
$950,000 go to those activities. $350,000 go to the planning efforts, the charrettes, the meetings, and the vision. So that's the breakdown.
Councilmember Williamson.
Okay, so
Generally,
the 950,000 set aside for projects in the community. I know that this is early, that things have to get, because I understand the grant world, that things, once you're approved, then some planning around that happens. But who is in charge of administering those funds? Who's like making sure that all 950,000 is being spent the way this group intends it to be spent after all of these charrettes and activities have taken place?
MSU.
Michigan State University. So this is in a lockbox at MSU.
Yep.
Until those groups have decided how that is to be spent.
It's in a lockbox in DC until we
Well,
request it.
It could be different.
Yeah, that old lockbox thing, you know?
No, I just wanted to know what the process was because I didn't understand that yet.
Yep, the funds will be held in DC till we requested them for each activity.
Councilmember Lawler.
Thank you, Mayor. This sounds like a pretty good grant. It sounds like it's all for residents. But one thing that I did hear you say was that it would include increase in salary. Whose salary when this is our job to help our residents?
Mm-hmm. HUD would be looking at long-term data after the funding period ends. And they would be following these public housing developments and collecting data as best they can to see how salaries have increased or decreased or stayed the same over time.
Whose salaries?
The people, the residents.
Okay.
The residents.
Talking
If
about
they
local
are.
salaries increasing in the community because of the change that's been taking place.
Yep.
But I think Marcola was understanding that the $100,000 to the city and the housing commission over 3 years was meant to supplant people who are already working on, or is this for new people to work on?
It's oh, okay.
That's what she was getting.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
The $100,000 would be to supplant existing employees, or you could identify perhaps a part-time person or someone you would want to bring on to just help with this 3-year effort, and it would also go to equipment. So it would offset city funds.
Follow up to that, this grant probably is not expected for at least 6 months, correct? To even be approved for 6 months. So at the time that 100,000 is decided, or the approximately $100,000 between the city and the Housing Commission, that would be something that the city manager, MSU, and the Housing Commission would have to talk about, and then of course bring to council and the Planning Commission, correct?
Yes, and we want a general idea this week before it's submitted, and we could finalize everything once we're funded.
Correct, thank you.
Other questions from council? Councilmember Lawler.
Thank you, Mayor. I also heard you say something about a steering,
Steering committee?
Yeah, steering committee. What does that, consist of? What does it look like? Would our city, liaison to the, Housing Commission be able to be on that board as well as precinct, a representative from precinct 1, 2, and 3?
Yes, and that makeup can be decided by the city, by the Housing Commission. It can be as large as we would like it to be. We have to have critical people who can be champions for the effort to help steer it, of course.
Councilmember Williamson.
I love that Marshall Public Schools has sent a letter in to you in support
Yeah.
of this work, but one of the concerns I have heard even before this evening was that we do have a critical mass of children who do not attend Marshall. And I understand these charrettes are day-long activities. What work can be done to incorporate children and families who do not attend Marshall Public Schools?
Can we get a list of those superintendents or directors, if they're private schools, from you, and we would invite them?
I think Randy would probably volunteer you and do that as well.
What was that,
I think
sorry?
Marshall Public Schools would help you with that as well too. If they're
Oh.
going to sign on to be a partner,
Okay.
they would want to make sure all kids are included.
Sure, yep.
But I can help you with that too. I'll make a commitment to helping you with that as well.
Thank you, thanks. And that can come after the fact, after this
Right,
week,
after
but
the
yeah,
fact,
I
yep.
think they would want to be involved.
It should be.
We can invite in civic classes, government classes, sociology classes, and they can be a part of the events, and not just limited to that.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments by council? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item is public comments on agenda items. Those wishing to make public comments, please come forward, state your name and address. You have 3 minutes. Proper decorum is required. I would request that the gallery be respectful of the speakers and of council. So if you wish to make a public statement, please come forward. This is on agenda items.
Good evening. Tom Hunsdorfer, 803 South Superior. Just a few quick comments related to both the presentations we've heard. About a month ago, Helen Guzzo addressed council. She's the head of senior services for the county, and I and Willie Tabb are two of the members of the Senior Millage Allocation Committee. We're the two who are from Albion, and I basically wanted to offer a reminder of how our senior millage tax contributions are used and a couple programs that are available for Albion residents. The first that Helen talked about briefly is money for minor home repairs for people 60 and older. So if you have a senior citizen you know of who has a water heater that went out or needs a doorway fixed or smaller scale home repairs, Community Action, based in Battle Creek, is the vendor who provides that. They have dozens of approved contractors to do this work. They've all been vetted and cleared. We recently gave $292,000 additional dollars to lower the waiting list for these small home repairs. But again, if you have a neighbor who is 60 or older and there's something broken in their home, it can be up to $3,500 worth of repairs. You just contact Community Action, or you can call the County Senior Services Office in Marshall, and they can connect you. The other program has to do with wheelchair ramps for homebound seniors who are in wheelchairs. And this is through Habitat for Humanity, based in Battle Creek. They've already built several of these ramps in Albion, again, for people 60 and older. A companion piece to that through the Disabilities Network for persons of any age who are disabled who may need a ramp, the Disability Network also has funding for that. But for people 60 and older with senior millage funds, the two things I mentioned, minor home repairs that Community Action does with vetted contractors, and ramps for homebound people who may have a wheelchair or may need help getting in and out of their homes. And for that, you can call Habitat for Humanity in Battle Creek or the County Senior Services Office. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there further public comments this evening on the agenda? Seeing none, may I have a motion to adjourn to go into closed session?
So moved.
Second? For support?
Support.
But you can't move it in
She
support.
moved it too. It was at the
Okay.
same time.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. We are adjourned to go into closed session. Calls regular council meeting back to order. Okay, first item is the consent calendar, approval of the regular session minutes for May 20th and special session minutes for May 23rd. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? Okay, those in favor of approval of the minutes, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, they are approved. Okay, first item on the agenda for individual discussion is request approval for 7 medical marijuana grower licenses for Greenhouse Farms LLC. Okay. And we each have a copy of the license applications. Do you have anything you want to say, City Attorney?
As an initial matter, because we tend to forget this, at the conclusion of the discussion of this item, I need you to turn these application materials back in, because they are the little packet, because they're not for public dissemination. But this particular applicant, if you recall, they have, I believe, obtained, I have to double check, 6 or 7 licenses previously. They're seeking to stack another 7 licenses at the same location. We reviewed their materials, and I believe they've cleared all of the department reviews and planning commission.
Okay. So may I have a motion for,
So moved.
okay, second? Okay, is there discussion on approval of these licenses? Okay. And this is within the total quantity of licenses that were approved by council last year.
This is the end of the 20 licenses.
Okay.
They are now all utilized, assuming these are
Okay.
the total disease.
Any questions or comments by council? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Reed, Brown,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
and Mayor Atchison.
Yes. Okay, so they are approved. Next item, item B, request approval of the second reading and adoption of ordinance 2019-04 and ordinance to amend ordinance 58-161 fireworks. City Attorney, do you wish to address that? Okay, thank you.
Support.
Okay, moved and seconded. City Attorney, would you like to address it?
So, if you recall, we talked about this at the last regular meeting. The Fireworks Safety Act has been amended a couple times, most recently amended in 2018. Basically, what the most recent amendment did is it narrowed the days that can be locally regulated for discharge of what's referred to as consumer fireworks. And those days have now been limited to essentially New Year's Eve, the days preceding Memorial Day, the days preceding 4th of July, and the days preceding Labor Day. It also changes some of the penalties, use of fireworks in violation of the days outside of the days that I've just described. The state law now mandates, there's no discretion, it mandates a civil fine of $1,000 for discharge outside of those days. If someone uses, discharges, or ignites fireworks on public property, school property, church property, or, for example, their neighbor's property without permission, it is a civil infraction with a $500 fine, up to a $500 fine. And lastly, if someone uses fireworks under the influence of alcohol or controlled substance or a combination, it is a civil infraction with a fine of up to $1,000. So those were the modifications that were made by the state. We've made modifications to our current ordinance to bring it into line with the state law.
Questions or comments by council? Okay. Been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Reed. Yes. Brown.
Yes.
Lawler.
Yes.
Williamson.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
And Mayor Atchison.
Yes. It's approved. Okay. Okay, next item, sidewalk update. I did skip over that, thank you. Item C, discussion approval of settlement terms for personnel matter. May I have a motion?
Oh, I move to table that indefinitely.
Support.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to table it. Is there any discussion? And that was based on our discussion during closed session, correct, Councilmember Williamson?
Yeah.
Okay. Moved and seconded, please call the roll.
Councilmember Brown.
Yes.
Lawler.
Yes.
Williamson.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Reed. Yes. And Mayor Atchison.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Now, sidewalk update.
Well, we're still moving forward in the collection of the data for all of the sidewalks. We do have quite a bit of the mapping done. We have a trailer put together that will help us in carrying equipment to make this happen. But as far as anything specifically being done, there isn't anything being done right at the moment. That's about all I got.
Data collection.
Comments by
Yeah.
council. Councilmember Williamson.
I just wanted to help you out a little bit, but data collection is happening. You're just not.
I did say that when I started,
Yeah,
didn't I?
yeah.
Yeah, that's ongoing. We have several groups that are still doing it on maps and collecting all of that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do you, Councilmember Reed?
In case someone asks, like they're always saying to me, what are they gonna do something about it? When do you think you'll be finished collecting data and maybe preparing to do some? Will any be done this year?
I'm sure some will be done this year. Right at the moment, all of our guys are catching up on the grass. It's been pretty wet, and we've got everybody mowing that we can have mowing. And I don't have an answer, but I know that our plan is to work on it. The superintendent and I have been out and taken a look at several areas that we are saying, you know, let's get here because there's actually missing sidewalk in certain areas. So we are moving in that direction. I know it's not fast enough, but we're doing the best we can.
We really need to get some kind of time frame and a commitment to when we're going to actually start fixing something. So when do you think you can provide us with a date?
We can work on that. We only have so many people, and we've got a lot of people that don't have the experience to be doing it, so.
Okay, but at this point, we haven't even decided whether we're going to contract it out, put out a bid. We got to do something. Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay, next item, update on moving expenses for the former city manager. I'd asked our city attorney to give us an update, please.
So, Councilwoman Lawler had asked for an update on where the former manager was at as it relates to her repayment of the monies that she agreed to with the city. She, under the settlement agreement, she has 120 days from March 18th of this year to repay that fund, those monies. That puts it right around July 16th, give or take a day. To date, she has not repaid anything.
Okay.
So about 6 more weeks before we can take any kind of action.
And the options for actions are to?
Sewer.
Okay. Next item, or unless other council members have questions or comments. Okay. Discussion on the single hauler contract, of which we have a copy. memory serves me, this current contract expires in April of next year. March of next year. Okay. 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 Comments or questions by council? Councilmember Brown.
Thank you. Did you say March 31,
March 31, 2020.
2020? Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Lawler.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted us to get in the frame of mind to think about this senior goal haulers contract and situation. I have stated a couple times before, even before we signed the contract, that I was concerned with the benefits that a veteran would get, the benefits for the snowbirds, and benefits for seniors, because I just think that seniors should be charged by the bag. So I just want us to bring something to the table. Maybe at a later date, I can bring it back and to try and come up with some ideas to help if we decide to keep a single hauler, to just try to help it benefit everyone.
Well, did you have a question or comment?
I do have a question. Is there been like a feedback loop established to try to figure out from residents, you know, do they like it? Is this something that, has something been done in that area yet? I know we have like we have more than about a year to figure that out, but I'm wondering,
We have about 9 months.
9 months,
And
okay.
We want to get going on this soon because of the time you put out an RFP and get all the information together and get bids back, it's going to take some time. So we don't want to wait too long before we get going on this. This is a good time to get this started. And there's been a lot of feedback that we've had over the last year, whether it's issues with seniors and there's large item pickups and those type of things, that we need to look at what we want to get in the RFP so we can get this out sooner than later.
Okay.
And I'd like to get something back that says, here's what has benefited the city, it's reduced the cost, it's done this, or hasn't had any impact, or something, so we get a report on that. City Attorney Harkins.
So, I mean, really, the city has three options that they should consider in this. One, the contract allows you to just simply renegotiate the existing contract on whatever terms the parties agree. That'll probably involve some sort of modification to the rate, but it could possibly include some of the things that Councilwoman Lawler brought up that address concerns about seniors or veterans and things of that nature. Or you could decide to do an RFP and seek competitive bids again. You know, we don't usually tend to do that after only one contract cycle, but you certainly can. I would say if you decide to do that, I would not approach Granger about option A at first, because you don't want to put them in a position where they're putting their figures out in advance of everyone else, and that kind of defeats the bidding process. Or you can always decide to go back to the old system of multiple haulers, but that would require us to change our ordinances. So just wanted to put those options out to council.
Thank you. Okay. So if you can pull something together to tell us, here's what the benefits have been, and, okay.
I would agree with Councilman Lawler. If we could just get some information on the seniors and the veterans. Because as far as the rest, I think that they're good policies. But if we could make arrangements to help our seniors and veterans, that would be good.
No other comments, we'll go to the next item, which is discussion of leaf pickup. Councilmember Lawler?
Thank you, Mayor. I asked this to be on our agenda because this past winter, when the plow comes out, leaves are on top. So it doesn't beautify our city at all. I am hearing a couple complaints about people with big yards and the problem that they're having by only being able to put out 6 bags a week, no longer able to bring their leaves to the tree dump. So it is an issue that I do truly believe we need to address, because it's the way we got this leaf thing set up is just not working, to me anyway.
That may be a possible, if we elect to renegotiate the contract or put out an RFP to change the terms, making it an average or a total number for the city or something, because there's many residents that don't put out 6 bags of leaves every week, and so if it was averaged overall, that probably would mitigate that problem quite a bit. Okay. Any other questions or comments by council? Do you have anything you want to say about the leaf pickup? Do we have any idea what a long-term solution is for our leaves and tree at the dump?
There's a couple options with that. We can look into having those items hauled to a recycling location. Obviously, that's going to be costly.
Right.
In order to have a recycling that we do ourselves or composting, we probably have to have another employee that was capable of handling that on a regular basis and the equipment to do it. So those are the type of things that we're looking at in cost-wise. So.
Okay. Any potential time frame when you think you might come forward with some recommendations?
We can do that sooner or later. Again, it goes back to, are we going to stay with the single hauler and the leaf pickup that way, or are we going to look going back to doing it the way we were doing it?
Okay, well, we do have to resolve the tree dump, right? It can't just remain as is. We have to get rid of what's there.
Right,
Wasn't
and
that-
we're working on that issue, correct?
Okay.
Yes. Or rather, the issue of taking more in is the question.
Okay. Councilmember Lawler.
Thank you, Mayor. Have we just reached out into neighboring small communities like ourselves to see what they do for leaf pickup? No?
I don't know what was done previously when we went to the single hauler, so.
A lot of other communities, to answer that question, do bag and put them out at the street, at the curb. Same way that we've recommended that we do here in Albion, and Granger picks it up, takes it to Hammond Farms. That is, they have 4 different locations surrounding Lansing that they compost everything that Jackson and other cities, as I understand it, put out for them to pick up.
Is it expensive?
It's basically what Granger does now for the city of Albion. It's included in our garbage service. They take everything that the truck that comes in here on Wednesdays, I believe it is, takes everything up to one of those centers in Lansing for composting through Hammond Farms. Now I've had a call into them. I've had a call into them several different times to find out. It was my understanding that they were looking to open another satellite near Marshall. That would cut down on our expense quite a bit, but I have not gotten the word back from them yet as to whether they're doing that or not.
Okay. Next item, discussion vaping ordinance.
So, this is something that I talked to the chief about. The other municipalities that I represent have had issues, growing issues with, apparently the new thing for youth, particularly those youth in school, is rather than smoking, to vape. And it's whether they're using tobacco products at underage or other illicit substances underage. I think it became such a problem statewide that the state legislature finally passed Senate Bill 106, which has been sent to the governor's desk for signature. I don't believe as of today has been signed yet, but it's expected to be signed in a day. And basically, what they did is they integrated vaping into the state's prohibition on minors using tobacco products. So now they've got a statute that encompasses prohibiting establishments from selling tobacco or vapor products to minors. It prohibits possession or use of tobacco by minors, and it also prohibits possession or use of vapor products, or what they refer to as alternative nicotine products, by minors, whether that's in private or in public. It prohibits it all. So I wanted to bring that to your attention, that it's it's probably going on in the area. This would allow us to deal with it on a local level and see if you wanted to explore an ordinance in this regard.
Questions from council? Councilmember Brown.
Thank you. Like, locally, have we seen, an increase with minors in vaping? We have?
All the schools are dealing with it.
Okay.
I have a question because I don't actually understand vaping. So is it always nicotine that they're inhaling?
No, sometimes it's nicotine, sometimes it's derivations of marijuana or the products associated therewith. Sometimes it's just fruity flavored
Air?
I don't even know what it's called. I mean, yeah. So it's a mix of those three things. What I have seen pretty prominently in both in Ingham County and Eaton County, where the other municipalities are represented, is that the most prevalent one tends to be tobacco products.
Okay, so are kids allowed to vape non-nicotine and non-illicit drugs? Is the statute? No, I mean, I have to ask.
So.
So like if you little Johnny's over in the corner vaping strawberry vapor that doesn't have THC or nicotine, is little Johnny in trouble or?
It depends on where you are, to be honest, because so there's no law prohibiting the purchase of the actual, for example, like for example, like you said, the fruity whatever. It doesn't contain nicotine or marijuana, so it's technically not regulated. However, what a lot of municipalities are doing, because of any potential health consequences or because they don't want kids sitting in class and just smoking stuff, and it's happening. These kids will smoke like strawberry flavored whatever in class. The municipalities are prohibiting the vape devices themselves.
Oh, okay. Okay, so it is common for us to regulate all vaping across the board for minors. And then
You're starting to see that trend more and more.
Okay.
But
That's what I was trying to get at. I mean,
Basically, what's been going on, the laws haven't caught up with yet, and
Yeah.
they're working on correcting it.
okay.
but the state is not, this has not been passed into law yet.
When I looked earlier today, it said it had been sent to the governor's desk, I
Okay.
believe on May 21st, so it should be signed any day. It was passed by overwhelming majority of both sides of the house.
Yeah.
Other comments by council? Councilmember Wilson, do you have anything else? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay,
So I will bring back a draft ordinance at a future meeting for the council.
thank you. Okay. Discussion of trash cans along the walking trail. I believe you requested that, Councilmember Brown?
I did, thank you. I had a resident who frequents the trail, and I brought the issue to interim manager Kip, and the update he provided me was that he found some trash cans and they'll be out there shortly. Are they there?
That's what I was told by the superintendent for
Okay.
the street department. I don't know that they've been put out there.
Okay, well, they'll be there soon if they aren't already there, so. And interim manager Kip will make sure.
I will. He said it was not a problem.
Thank you.
Okay. Item J, discussion and approval of the city manager recruitment salary range. This is something MML has requested, something that we need to discuss. May I have a motion? A proposed salary range from a council member?
I have a point of information before we move into discussion
Okay.
on this topic. Isn't anything we decide about this changeable once you hire the person?
That is correct. It sets a range, and then
Okay.
what the negotiated terms are, what the offer is and negotiating that all comes, but it'll set the minimum and the maximum with the range.
For advertisement of the.
For recruitment, yes.
For recruitment, okay.
Councilmember Lawler.
Thank you, Mayor. Don't we have one in place already
Well,
from last time?
the last time I believe was 85,000 to 110,000. Pretty sure.
Yes, okay. So someone wants to make a motion to use that or make a motion for a different range, personally, I think we're going to have a hard time recruiting good quality candidates just for a variety of reasons.
Make a motion that we start with this.
Well, we need to come up with a range, and that's what we're going to give MML. So
So she's saying the former range, the one that's been in place.
okay, so it's moved to use the 85 to 110,000 as the salary range for recruitment. Is there a second?
Second?
Okay, is there any further discussion?
I would just add that we base it on experience, like,
Well,
to that.
yeah, we're not setting the salary, just
I
what range it can be.
But when you say 85 to 110, I think you should say based on experience, so you kind of make it clear. That's just my suggestion.
Okay.
That you could get 85,100.
What do we got?
Councilmember Williamson.
It has been my experience when it comes to searching for executives that if the city is able to offer a range higher than it currently has or has in the past, we could open the doors to a few more candidates than we would normally get. With people who have the experience and talent that some I think are looking for. Again, it's all, I think the other thing is like whatever we decide tonight is completely changeable upon the hiring of a candidate. But I think that increasing I think there could be some positive to increasing the back end of the salary to a higher number, maybe by 25%, in order to, when people are job searching and are looking for their next move, they know that the city could afford to handle them as a candidate. It looks like Colin has a question, so I'll yield.
Colin.
So, to Councilwoman Brown's point, I think it would be perfectly fine for the council to add on for whatever range you put, say 85 to 110 or whatever, depending upon experience or depending upon qualifications. Just to add that extra clarity that whatever you bring to the table will determine your final.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. So there is a motion to approve the salary range for recruitment from 85,000 to 110,000 based on qualifications and experience. Is there any proposed motion to raise that upper end?
She made the motion to do
I think
that,
you got
but we have to vote on that. Yeah.
Technically, sorry.
Go ahead.
So the motion was 85 to 110. There would need to be a friendly amendment or otherwise to add the, depending upon qualification or experience, and then you need to vote on that before you move on to a different range.
Okay,
Can I make that friendly amendment?
yes.
Okay, well, I'll make that friendly amendment if Lynn will accept, if Councilwoman Reed will accept it.
Is that fine with you, Councilmember Reed? Adding the caveat based on experience and qualifications?
Yes.
Okay. Now, if we approve this, we're done, and there's no, unless somebody wants to make a motion to amend the salary range. Is that correct?
Right, at a later date. You're talking about, what you'd be voting on tonight is 85 to 110 to send to MML.
Right.
With the added amended language, so you're voting on it as amended.
Right. So
Clear
if,
as mud?
no, I understand that. The thought, and what was put forward by Councilmember Williams, so I understood it correctly, was to enable MML to advertise with a broader range that might entice other candidates that doesn't commit the city to paying that salary.
Well, I think, but what you've got is a motion on the floor for 85 to 110, so if that fails, you go back to
Okay.
Councilwoman.
So, any other questions or comments? All right, it's been moved and seconded for the salary range to be set at 85 to 110,000 based on experience and qualifications. Okay. Would you please read the roll?
Councilmember Lawler,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes?
Clark,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes,
and Mayor Atchison.
Yes. Okay. All right. Discussion on North Street Improvement Project.
So we're moving ahead on that. Obviously, the barricades are up, the detour signs are out. They're, at this moment, cutting in the water main crosses that are going across three of the intersections there, and I can't remember the names offhand. But those are being cut in at this moment, and then we'll just be continuing to move forward. So that's well underway.
What? No, we'll go into the next one then. Discussion on Irwin Avenue Street Improvement Project.
Sometimes I feel like I need chicken wire around up here, so. That one has become a bit of a process. We're dealing with MEDC, DEQ, which is now Eagle, and MDOT. Every time we bring something up or there's a change that has been discussed, all three want to have final approval on any change that's been made. DEQ, or Eagle, I'll just start calling them Eagle, with the lead and copper rules, kind of threw a monkey wrench into everything for us as well, because we had to take time to identify everyone's service inside the house for lead, copper, or brass. That's been accomplished. Right now, we're not in limbo anymore, but we've been working on a valve that's on Superior Street. One of the things that came up in discussion was there is a valve that's broken in a closed position that we want to have replaced in part of the scope of this project. So that means they originally were not going to enter Superior Street. It was just Irwin Avenue. They're now going to enter Superior Street, which creates a whole new set of difficulty for MDOT, DEQ, or Eagle, and MEDC. In talking with Mickey Bittner today, we are looking at the 25th, I believe, of June. The bid will go out, and we should have a bid opening on the 25th of June. So it's in the process of being to the point where we're getting actual bids back. I think one of the caveats or one of the warnings with that you need to know is that most bids that are being open now are about 20% higher than they were projected to be. Costs have drastically gone up, and we'll just see where we're at when the bids come in. That's about where we are with it.
Okay. And the valve that has failed in the closed position, okay, which now expands the scope of work to go into Superior, which then complicates the permits.
It adds a complication or adds another caveat to the permit process. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. What is the impact of having this valve failed shut? What's not working? Who's not getting service?
No, everyone is getting service. It becomes a volume and fire suppression issue. When you have a valve closed in one direction, you're only getting water from the opposite direction. With that valve open, you have the flow through, and volume and pressure is greater. So also then, when you have a problem, we can't isolate right now. So it just made sense we're going to go through that entire street and put water main in. It made sense to have everything working when we come out of it. And since we were already in it, digging it and going, we felt that was a good choice to make. Didn't realize that it was going to complicate things and push schedules back, or there's just a lot going on with the state. In all honesty, I think they're as shorthanded sometimes as we are. You send something to them, and it may take 3 weeks to hear from them. It's just not getting done in a timely fashion, and that's created some problems for us as well.
we might be able to get some assistance from our county commissioner.
Yes.
Okay.
But right now, I think we still are waiting on something from MDOT as far as the detour route. We're working out that detail yet, but we still want to get it out to bid. And while we don't have the finished approval from all three of those state departments, we are going to move forward with the anticipation that it's going to be coming through soon. And then we can get started on Irwin Avenue. Any questions?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, discussion approval of independent investigation scope of work slant parameters. Councilmember Brown.
Thank you. Yeah, I asked for this agenda item. I know at our last regular meeting, council voted to go with our labor attorney, that firm, to do the investigation. And I just thought it was important for us as a council to be clear about what the scope of that work look like. So I have a motion. I move that the investigation is as follows. It's a comprehensive investigation, including but not limited to interviewing officers, personnel, and council members, and a comprehensive report of the November 24th, 2018 incident and the handling of the incident, and any recommended changes to policy and procedures, and any recommended training. So that's my motion.
Is there support?
Support.
Okay, discussion.
So,
Councilmember Clark.
okay, I just need to understand. So, is that in the perimeter of what the first investigation was, or are you adding to it?
The first investigation, I don't know what that was. I don't know what that was. I mean, I don't know what the first investigation detailed. So, council's already approved an independent investigation, and what I'm saying is, I think it's important that we define, a comprehensive investigation and a comprehensive report. So, going into this, we know what we're expecting, and whoever conducts this investigation knows what council's expecting. Cullen, did you?
City Attorney Hardin.
And I apologize, Councilman Brown. I was trying to write as fast as you were talking.
I have it.
So what I have is interviewing ADPS officers, interviewing council, recommending policy or procedure changes, and a comprehensive report. Did I miss anything?
Comprehensive investigation, including but not limited to interviewing officers, personnel, council members, and a comprehensive report, and recommended changes to policies, procedures, and any recommended training. I have it written if you want it.
No, I got it all now. Thank you.
You
Sorry,
want
I just
it?
couldn't keep up with you.
Jill wants it.
Any other comments or questions? Councilmember Reed.
I am just under the notion that a law firm should know how, or a firm like that we've chosen should know how to do the investigation much better than we should.
Okay. Councilmember Brown.
Did you want, go ahead.
Well, I mean,
Go ahead.
yeah, okay. So I just wanted to offer to council, once the council authorized Keller Toma to do the investigation, I informed Ms. Didson. I mean, I can tell council, when she asked what exactly they're looking for, about 90% of what Councilwoman Brown outlined is what I told her. So I will, assuming because I think both she assumed and I assumed that that's what the council was looking for anyway. So I mean, the couple things that were added here, I mean, I don't think would be a problem. And I've already informed her that that's the impression that I had what the council was looking for. So.
Councilmember Brown.
Thank you. I just wanted to take the assumption part of it away. I mean, if you state clearly what you expect, and then going into it, everybody knows, and there's no assuming or guessing, and it's pretty clear cut. So that was my position. Thank you.
Do you have any comments? Any other comments by council? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Williamson,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes?
Reed,
Yeah.
Brown,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
and Mayor Atchison.
Yes. Item N, request approval of Resolution 2019-22, a resolution to support the Transforming Albion project under a HUD Choice of Neighborhoods grant application. And the resolution is in here. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Support?
Second.
Okay, discussion. Councilmember Lawler.
Thank you, Mayor. It was mentioned that there was already a template put in place. I do not remember what was put in place. Is there any way we could see it in case new members want to make an amendment or anything like that?
What I recall, it was in reference to the planning, neighborhood planning councils. What do you think it is, Councilmember Brown?
I think it was the, how, the plan, the plan on how to divvy up the resources. Yeah. All right.
That can be shared, definitely through interim manager.
Councilmember Lawler.
Thank you, Mayor. Does the acting city manager or the assistant city manager, have they reviewed it, and how do they feel about it?
As far as how we feel about which part of it?
The grant, do you have any fuzziness about it? Do you have concerns about it?
No.
Give me like one pro and one con apiece.
I don't have a lot of knowledge of this grant in particular. I know this is the third year now that we've put in for this grant. It was originally put together with the MSU Extension and Cheryl Mitchell. And then when we didn't get it, it was resubmitted last year. Council approved for the resubmittal last year. And this is the same thing, approval for the resubmittal. The only real difference in it from the past times that we've done this is there's an increase in our cost to it. Originally, it was $10,000, I believe, and now it's up to $17,500. So
Yes.
Over 3 years.
well, it was the same before. It was over 3 years before, but it was only $1,000 for us at that time. So there's an increase into it. I think there's some great opportunities for the community involved with this. There's a lot that can come out of it, and I think it's a great idea. If the council is willing for the money, I think it's a small cost to the city with a lot of rewards and returns to the city. So I find it very beneficial.
Councilmember Brown.
Thank you. So, Councilmember Lawler, I echo, I had concerns when you were doing your presentation, but when you got to the part where you talked about not displacing people and being very aware of concerns of gentrification, that eased the concerns that I had, because I had them. I do think the potential here is great. I do think it's a small cost to the city considering the potential benefits that we could have from it. So I don't have a problem supporting this resolution, but I did have to speak to the concerns that I had up until that last portion, and that relieved a lot of my worries. So I'm happy that you're aware of those concerns of gentrification and people being displaced and all those real concerns that a lot of our residents have. So thank you.
Ms. Snyder's been working a lot on this, so she might have a few more comments as well.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. So I had the same concerns. Just reviewing what the funds can be used for and what they cannot be used for. And it's clearly stated that they cannot be used for displacement efforts. So if we are looking to enhance these areas, that is a very good possibility. So I think if we I think we should use this opportunity, just as long as we work with the commission as well as with MSU Extensions to make sure we create a diligent plan that addresses all of these concerns that we have, because I don't think we should sign our name to anything when it's going to displace our residents. So that was one of my major concerns, but hearing her presentation today, I feel more confident that we can kind of address those issues. So.
Any further comments by council?
Thank you.
City Attorney Harkins.
One question that was posed actually by our finance director to me that I wanted to possibly pose to the, not sure where she went. Oh, she's in the back. Our finance director raised the concern about whether or not any of the public funds are going to be used for, I want to just make sure I reference this correctly, non-private property owned by private citizens, with the concern being using public money for a private purpose.
Public land only.
Public land only?
Mm-hmm.
Good enough.
Any other comments or questions?
That's not sorry.
Councilmember Brown.
You sat here in the whole meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Your presentation was very informative, and your patience is much appreciated. So thank you.
Councilmember Williamson,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Reed, Brown,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
and Mayor Atchison.
Yes. Future agenda items. City Attorney Harkins. Yeah.
We need, if your council recalls, we had that issue with Wells Equipment Sales Incorporated. I put together a settlement agreement, which will require your approval at the next regular meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
Single hauler contract.
I'm sorry?
Single hauler contract.
What do you want to discuss?
What we would want to see, if we can negotiate some things, just as our interim said, start getting the ball rolling right now so we can work out whatever it is we need to work out.
And if any of you've heard anything from your residents about, please forward that to me so that we can start working on some of that stuff. Right, I know everybody has, so.
Okay.
Choose first.
Councilmember Brown.
Yeah, sorry. We discussed rental certification. I know the committee met, I don't know where that was or what needs to go. What's next, I guess, is my question for rental certification. Or is that something we can discuss?
Certainly.
Could we request an update from the committee? Not just to just talk about it, but an update from the committee about rental certification. That would be,
Okay.
I would love that, like a formal, like, this is where we're at, this is what we're doing.
Councilmember Clark?
I understand ARC is the one that is in charge of a lot of the things that go on downtown and things like that. ARC, and there's another.
Well, there's ACE Investment and
ACE,
ARC.
yes. I would like for them to come and give us a report about that. I don't know much about it. I would like to know what's going on with that, what kind of spending is being done, and where we're at.
Okay. Any other agenda items from council? Okay. Public comments. Persons that wish to address the city council, please limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes, proper decorum, and respect from gallery.
Renee Miller, 208 Booth Drive. Two things. Listening to you talk about the single hauler contract, I just wanted to say as a resident that I would hope that we would definitely keep Granger. I am super pleased with them as a citizen. They are timely. Those are they are on time, Johnny on the spot every week at the exact same time. I can appreciate that. When I do have the leaf pickup, I do a lot of gardening, and so I do, usually put bags out during the fall. I have some really large trees in the back. I probably had 30 bags out there. They picked up every single one. I was really, really pleased. And, I know that's not an every week deal, but, they're really accommodating. I did hear Councilwoman Lawler's concerns about our senior citizens. I do support that. If that's something that they could adjust, great. But I think it's the best we ever had. Second, also about leaf pickup. I'm a concerned citizen as far as our leaves. I don't know what you guys can come up with or do about the leaves that are throughout the city. Just, I know in my neighborhood in Precinct 1, it's just leftover leaves that maybe people did not rake their yards. They're left along the curbs. It's just, this unsightly. I know last year I paid someone independently twice to clean the curb line that was not even my property, and it cost me $80 a pop. I went ahead and ate that cost. However, I don't think it's fair to me that I have to keep paying that. So I don't know if it's something, I don't know if they could come around once a month or something and just, pick them up. But it's really unsightly up against the curbs, and that's all I wanted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Linda Coleman in 105 Irwin. I don't mean to dump on Mr. Phillips, but I have a couple questions about Irwin Avenue as a frustrated resident. I'm not blaming anyone. I understand the state moves at an unusual pace and changes frequently. However, I would like to know how we will know the progress of which end of Irwin are you going to start? The second is, I'm a little concerned that I'm hearing, and I understand it's necessary, that I'm hearing that the valve needs to be added to the project. I have no idea the cost of that, but it concerns me that I was told nothing additional could be added. And if you're not aware, and I think most people might be if they know me, that we have no sewers in front of our house for the first houses on the first block of Irwin. We have to go back to Crandall and find other ways to have private sewer lines, which are antiquated and need replacement. So if that was added, I'm concerned as to why we couldn't find some method to fund, whether it's tax assessments on our properties or something could be done. If there's enough of a delay, could that possibly be looked into? The second is, if we start as late as getting the bids out now, how late or what is the anticipated possibility of getting started before we have snow again? And then we're in a real problem because our access for both leaf pickup and garbage pickup is going to be compromised, as well as just our access to our homes. So if we could get a few questions answered, that'd be wonderful. And I'm really sorry. Thank you.
Good evening. Eileen Williams, Albion, Michigan. But I just have a question again about the grass on Dalrymple, at Dalrymple School, and the manor on Erie Street. I mean, it's up. My grandbaby can't walk through there without getting lost. And we need the city or somebody to come cut it because it's overgrowing. I mean, I know if my grass is tall, I'm going to get a ticket. Who can I get this ticket to?
Lonnie Brewer, 1200 Hillside Road. I'm getting ready to do a little fundraiser for our community center. I'm trying to work with the Rising Tide through their program. What they're gonna do, anything that we raise is gonna be matched through the state. I've been a nonprofit for 12 years, almost 12 years. And I kind of got a little problem because last time I came to the meeting, somebody violated the contract when it comes to taxes. And the city still try to work with this gentleman to put stuff in his facility. I'm a nonprofit. I'm tax exempt for paying any taxes at all. My twin and I have been put in hardship paying off taxes that we request for the city to sit down and go through our books. And if they would have went through our books, they would have found out that the taxes that we paid over the years, it was bogus taxes that the city should pay us back that money. So what I'm doing is now I'm trying to sit down with somebody to go back over my taxes for to pay me back my money that I know we don't owe through our nonprofit exempt, and I already talked to legal. And I want to know why Casarelli has not been put into the county like we was and pay off their debts like we had to pay our debts off. So I feel just like this, if you guys keep saying that we in it together and this is how we get treated, he's a profit, we non-profit. The way y'all treat him is the way you should have been treating us. We didn't get no reach out at all, and I've been trying for the last 7 years to get our taxes expunged, and nobody wouldn't listen. I showed them documentation about my 501c through the state. Like I said before, the lady from Economic Development came down the scene and sat down with Kip. Kip, you've seen where in good faith that we've been dealing with the city through our nonprofit. We've been doing work around the city with our nonprofit. I sat down with the governor to talk about funding our building, and we still getting taken off the tax roll with our building, put us in hardship to pay commercial taxes, which I still don't see how in the world you're gonna take our tax status of our building and then let somebody that's not even nonprofit work with them through their hardship. So somebody needs to give me some answer, and somebody needs to sit down with me and go over my book. And if you owe me back my money, please give me back my money. Thank you.
Are there further public comments this evening? No, I'll invite our county commissioner to come up.
Mayor.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, council members, Interim City Manager Kip, Clerk Domingo, residents of the City of Albion, the folks watching this evening, good evening. Gary Tompkins, your County Commissioner. And since we're on the Irwin Avenue roll, I do have a question as well. Have they given you an updated timeline in terms of when their estimated start and completion date is? Okay, well, the only reason I say that is because as we move, I mean, from what I understand, the initial timeline was June to November, correct? November was the completion date. And the issue is, as you go farther into it, you do not want to be laying asphalt in November as temperatures are changing, because your product will greatly be reduced, and especially because you're spending a lot of money totally redoing that road. It's vitally important, because what you potentially could see, depending on the delay, you could potentially see that project get delayed until next year. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, you don't want to be laying asphalt in November and December, believe me. We've done that at the county, and we've saw unfortunately, some negative results. So just something to keep in mind too as well, because that's of a concern. You guys definitely need a good product when it's all said and done, and not a half product that will be something that you'll be maintaining quickly thereafter. So also too, to the young lady back there that asked about the grass on Erie Street, as a matter of fact, yes ma'am. Matter of fact, I was there Thursday at the nursing home, and matter of fact, that grass is going to be mowed very quickly. One of the things I ask, because one of the things I ask is why isn't the grass mowed? Because again, you do know that is in the county's hands. The nursing home is, and that's our responsibility. So that is going to be taken care of. You'll see that mowed here relatively very recently. So that's a good thing. So because it shouldn't be like that. We certainly not only expect ourselves at the county to be respectful and make sure when we do it right. So that's just a couple of things real quickly. I know you guys want to get out of here too, so I'll be real quickly as well. My monthly newsletter, it's available if you need it. If you'd like to get a hold of it, email me, let me know. You can certainly get a hold of it. Hard copies will be available tomorrow at the Albion District Library as well. In this month's newsletter on page 4, one of the things I talk about, and one of the things I'm very, very open about, as you guys have noticed in the past, from a transparency point, is one of the things I talk about is the current road funding facts and inequities that we see at the county and also at the city level. Currently, Act 51 and how it's funded is antiquated, it's unfair. Let me give you a perfect example. Calhoun County, as I've stated before, has 50 more miles than Kalamazoo County, but we get $7 million less in funding. Now, I don't know about you, the last time I found is a road is a road is a road, no matter how much it costs, no matter if it's in the city of Albion or if it's in Battle Creek, wherever it's at. So that's a problem. One of the things, if you take a look at even the city of Albion, I did a comparative on page 4. If you guys do have that and have taken a look at that, is some comparative cities that actually has 3 to 4 miles less than Albion, but yet gets $250,000 more, which essentially equates to is the city of Albion gets about $17,300 per mile for road funding. The city that I referenced was Harper Woods, which gets $23,000 per mile for road funding. Now, I don't know about you, like I said, I don't know about you, but a road is a road no matter where it'll cost the same no matter where it's at. And I have a real problem with Act 51, and as we move forward with this, you're going to see the series continue to go as I'm going to expose this Act 51 as being a problem matter. And if you guys remember, one of the things that I said is I wasn't against Governor Whitmer at least putting out a proposal, because I think it's good to have a place where we can start to negotiate and talk about the road funding issues. But until we fix this antiquated Act 51 formula the way it's at, we're never going to be where we need to be. And as far as the Calhoun County is concerned, we can never be $7 million better if we've got 50 more miles of road, but we're $7 million less in funding. It just isn't going to happen. So we're struck with it. So from the conclusions of that page 4, one of the things we talk about is the cost of a mile of road is the same no matter where you go. You should not be punished for where you live. That's essential. Very simple. Calhoun County has more total miles than the comparative counties that I've listed, and yet has significantly less funding. And the city of Albion receives between $3,000 and $6,000 less in funding per mile than the comparative cities that I have on the list. Again, I'm going to always advocate for the places I represent, and I can tell you right now, Act 51 needs to be changed. So as we move forward in these series, what you're going to be able to see is how Act 51 is shown on a flow chart. And let me tell you, on a flow chart, it'll mesmerize you in terms of the complexity and all over the place it is. But I think people need to know, they need to be informed about it, because when someone says we're going to continue with the Act 51 formula as it's shown, we're done. We can't even have a further discussion, because that's the real problem. Is the city of Albion is just as important as any other city in the state. Calhoun County is just as important as any other county in the state, irrespective of the situation. We all pay taxes. And how do I tell an 88-year-old lady that calls me and says, Gary, I need help? And I look at her and go, sorry, I can't help you. It's a problem. We got a problem. So anyway, stay tuned for that as I work on that end. Page 5 talks about the upcoming Calhoun County scrap tire collection events. There's 3 of them this year. First one will be starting June 27th in Teconcha, followed by July 17th at Ketchum Field in Albion. And then there'll also be one on September 14th in Athens. It's limited to residential tires only and limited to 10 for events. So if you have a big business tire or if you have a big tractor tire, obviously you can't take it, but it gives you an opportunity to get rid of some of those scrap tires that you may have. And then finally, I'll end on a very positive note this evening. On May 23rd, on my page 6, on May 23rd, we had our Calhoun County Centenarian Luncheon. We have 37 seniors in Calhoun County that are 99 years old or older. 21 of them were able to attend, and I'll tell you, Ellen Tidwell from Battle Creek, 112 years old, and I can tell you, as absolutely as sharp as a wit. I could only probably hope to be that, half of what she is. Amazing lady, amazing lady. But that goes without saying, we also had Mr. Robert Holt from Albion, who was present, Francis Ray from Albion, and Bessie Harvard from Albion. So we had 3 centenarians from Albion. I get a chance to talk to each and everybody, although I will say one thing. Of the 21 people that were there in the picture, there's only one male, Mr. Holt. So it doesn't bode very well for us males going forward, you know what I mean, hoping to hit that number. You know what I mean? I felt kind of weird when I saw that. I'm like, oh, that's not good. So great event, though, great event to recognize our centenarians. You know, so much experience and knowledge. When you think about 21 seniors with at least 100 or older. That's 2,000 years of experience and knowledge in that room. It's amazing. So, and then finally, just a pictorial Memorial Day festivities. I had the opportunity to be the marshal, Grand Marshal in the Memorial Day Parade in Homer, and I was able to bring my dad along with me. My dad, who's had cancer, and really nice opportunity to spend some time with him and make him be part of a great event. He was a veteran, so he served our country, and I certainly appreciate that. So, with that being said, hopefully we covered everything we needed to tonight. I'll get you guys out of here, and I'll be quiet. So, any questions for me? If not, it's always a pleasure to be with you.
If there's anything you can do to help us get our permits.
Well, that was what I was just going to say. If you need any help, please let me know, because, again, I'll do whatever I can to advocate, because, you know, they hear from me quite often. Maybe they get tired of me. But this is something that you have essentially 3 different groups that are all saying different things. I hope they're in the same room together. Are they in the same room together, or are they in different rooms together? Well, see, there you go. That's your problem. That's my fear is that Irwin Avenue is going to be one of those casualties because of the situation that you may end up not seeing it done until next year. Unless you want to lay pavement in November and December and then have a half product, and Albion deserves more than that. So all right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
City Manager's report.
Going back to the question about the grass on Dalrymple Street, that was kind of overlooked as being city property now. That's been addressed, and it should be mowed here soon. So, I also received information today that demolition permits have been pulled for 604, 608, and 610 West Broadwell Street. I think many of you know those 3 small houses that have sat there next to the Housing Commission property now for as long as I've been in Albion, empty, vacant, are now going to be torn down soon. So that's good news for that area, definitely.
All right. Council members' comments. Okay. Well, I want to express my appreciation for you and your staff for the Memorial Day parade, and you were out this weekend when the high school graduates walked down Superior, and there was an assortment of city residents out there supporting them as well. Appreciate that. There's an awful lot of stuff going on here in the city, and we're moving along with the recruitment for the permanent city manager to give you some relief. Appreciate everything that you're doing, though. May I have a council member read?
June 15th is when we'll be celebrating Juneteenth in Holland Park. It'll start here at the City Hall at 11 o'clock. We'll get proclamation, and then we'll go down to the park. Keep an eye on either the newspaper or Mrs. Curley's news, because this year we might not have. We're waiting to hear from our food trucks. We were going to have food trucks. And we've got a meeting tomorrow night, so if we don't have food trucks, we'll be asking you to pack your own picnic lunch. And come on out and let's enjoy each other for the day.
Councilmember Brown.
Thank you. I just wanted to announce, on behalf of Fred Gant, Saturday, June 8th, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m., I think, at Victory Park is his annual father-son picnic, and he is encouraging the women to come and participate this year as well. So Saturday the 8th, 11 to 4, Victory Park.
Okay. May I have a motion to excuse absent council members? Councilmember Spicer. Okay. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. We are adjourned.